we have a whole world out there that's sort of cracking the codes, and the Levi Clays and all, and what's his name, Jared Fine, I can't even remember his name. There's a whole bunch of people out there making their names on YouTube by calling out these musicians. A really good example of this is the progressive metal band Rings of Saturn and their guitarist Lucas Mann, I think it is. And if you go on the internet and Google that, you will see he got accused of fakery. And then he came back and he replied with a video. And I think, what was the guy, Jared Fines? I can't remember the guy that had called him out. He sort of pulled the videos down and apologised because Lucas had really explained what was going on. But then there's still a contingent out there that are accusing this guy of faking it. I have said on this channel before that I have worked with a guy called Roy Marchbank, and he has also been accused of faking his guitar playing online. I've sat in a room with him playing, and that guy is one of the most virtuoso guitarists on the planet, and it's a shame that these people have been able to destroy his career so successfully, right, by pointing at something that they don't understand. And this is what I want to end up the video on. These people set themselves up as experts, right? They're experts in guitar playing, and they call these people out because they say these people are selling stuff. They're faking it and selling stuff. Yeah, it's called the music industry, right? If you've worked in the music industry, if you've had a deal and you've sold some albums and people have actually bought those albums, if you've had a career like that, then I think you're in a place to talk about this. Because so many great guitar players, if they get pulled into the one machine that I've just discussed, if they get management, if they start to record albums and they're making stuff, the producers and the management and everybody is going to push them to make playthrough videos. And playthrough videos, right, will be a playthrough of the album. And anybody who knows that anal retentive audience for that, they want to hear it sounding exactly like the album with the same sound. So you get people playing through. And a lot of the times, those solos that they're playing through on the albums have been through the mill. Go and listen to Animals and Leaders. Go and listen to Polyphia. Those are incredible guitar players, but listen to the playing. It has been compressed and buffed and tightened up and pushed to the max. If you check out a live performance, it's not quite there. That is the case of all musicians now, over and over again. I have worked in this genre, and I know that that's the case, right? So these people will sit up on the other side, the self-appointed experts, right, that know all about guitar playing. They will sit on the other side and go, look at them playing on that playthrough, and then you look live, and it doesn't sound the same. Yeah, I know, right? It's like a pop video. You know, you watch someone singing on a pop video, they are miming. It doesn't sound the same. Because we have this thing called recording studios. We have this thing called the music industry. We have this thing called producers. And what producers do is they buff it up. They've been doing it since recording studios were invented. But now they have the ability to do it to the nth degree. And there's market forces to do it. And I feel sorry for these guitarists that have come into the industry not really knowing how it works right at the beginning, and have done this type of stuff to try and establish themselves. And then these self-appointed experts who don't, they know about guitar playing, right? They know about it. They're so anal retentive when it comes to technique and playing. And they know about that stuff. They're there and they're going to sit as a judge, right? But they do not know how the industry works, right? They do not know the forces are on people. And so you get this selective thing where they'll go, I know this guitarist is really great, and I know he can do that stuff, but if you look at that video there, it's really perfect. So I'm going to selectively pick that and ignore all the other stuff and do my best to destroy that person's career, right? And why? Because they don't make albums, because they haven't got a deal. You know, Rings of Saturn have a deal, they have an audience, they've got to deliver the goods, the audience has certain wants. Right, if there's 3 guitars that have been overdubbed on that record and there's 2 guitarists in the band, they're going to have to run it on playback. That's how you do it. Right, there's so many bands going out there now where it's all on playback. And the thing that really annoys me about these self-appointed experts on there, because I'm annoyed by both of this. I'm annoyed that rock and prog and metal that this market force exists now where everything has to be absolutely perfect and created on a computer. You know, that massive metal bands that I won't name, the drummers are going in and recording their drums on a Roland electric drum kit just so it's so much easier to re-trigger. You're right. I think this is fake. It's been going on for years. It's happening all the time. You know, things like Melodyne and flex time editing means that you can't really go wrong. And people are working remotely. They're dialing their stuff in. So people will have that stuff in their bedroom and they will sit there and edit it to the nth degree. I do it. I play guitar, right? And I'll put a solo down and I get a great solo down, but I've hit 4 bum notes, say, in that solo. And maybe I film myself doing the solo. Maybe I'm really playing and I've filmed that solo and I have actually done this, right? I filmed the solo and it was a great solo, but there's 4 bum notes. So I go into the flex time editing and I repitch the notes. So when I get there and I go, oh, that note, I play that one a little bit late, and I just move it across, quantize and repitch, and I put that out. And these guitar nerds would look at that and go, oh my God, he's played that, but there's 4 notes there where his fingering wasn't exactly the same. You know, so what is this? He's faking it. He's faking it, right? Faking what? This is how the industry bloody works. Right? Everybody is doing that. And they are pointing the finger. If you take an example of someone like Lucas Mann from Rings of Saturn, he's a fantastic guitar player. Absolutely fantastic guitar player. And his reasoning, right, about, you know, they have filmed a video on stage for promotional purposes. They put the camera where the camera looks good on stage, and now you see no one has any amps on stage. It's all virtual influences. So the only thing he's got coming on the backing track, so you see him playing and he's playing along to the backing track. Out front, the first you know, the full band will be coming out, and there's people out there, and I'm going to point the finger at Levi Clay because he's sat there getting angry and shouting and, you know, and swearing his head off, saying it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem. Why would you put that out as promotional video? Why? I tell you why. Because they want the shot on stage because it looks cool. Now they could record it, and they could just for that little instant of, you know, because it's a fantastic shot of Lucas playing all this stuff, and then he shakes his head up and down. It looks brilliant. If they shot it through the back of the audience where the camera would have picked up that sound, it wouldn't look brilliant. So why didn't they bring a producer in and pay him, like, 500 quid a day to record it and multi-track it and then take it into a studio and mix it and master it so they can get that 1 minute of audio? Why didn't they do that? Why do you think they didn't do it? Right? And if you don't understand how the industry works, you don't understand that bands have to create content. We're not talking about some, you know, sociophobic staying that's in their house, sat on a chair, just putting guitar solos down on Instagram to try and impress everybody. That's that world. We're talking about people who are making music, releasing albums, being creative, and there are forces on those. And that it's such a shame that we live in the world. I don't like the fact. I think the progressive metal audience needs to realise that these bands, that nobody sounds like that. The amount of fans I have said that have gone to see a gig by a progressive metal band because it wasn't quite the same live, or it didn't sound quite right because they're miming, right? That's the thing. But I don't blame the bands, and I would not try and destroy their career because I understand the market forces. I'm in a progressive rock band called Rain. Our album has got in places 10 vocals overdubbed. We've got like 3 or 4 keyboard parts, 8 or 9 guitar parts, right? All those parts we can play live individually, but when we go out we have to restructure and rearrange the song so we can play it just with the 4 of us. It's really, really difficult. And so we've been looking into recently starting to play into backing tracks because I have seen so many progressive rock bands out there and progressive metal bands out there. They sound fantastic because it's all on playback. It's all on playback. And once you start to add playback, right, we're in the studio, often things are thickened up by doubling stuff up, right? So you may even want to double up the parts you're playing to make them sound beefier, right? The point is, when you go out, you want the audience to be entertained. You want them to get the experience that they love when they hear the album, right? And that influences things. Now, I'm sure there's people who are out there that haven't got that sort of level deal. They're not on tour. They're just at home creating playthroughs. But when you create a playthrough, the sort of genre of playthroughs has come from this background. So people have a certain working method. If they're working with certain producers, the producers will drive them to do that, right? I have had to argue with producers because I know all they want from me in that studio is for me to sort of put a rough drum part down where they have got really good individual sounds so that they can re-trigger afterwards and quantize and program. That's what they want, you know, and that creates a certain type of drum sound as well, which is very clicky and precise because you can't use overheads. It's all just the individual mics. And that's what I call the typewriter drum sound, is the sound you get. Same thing with guitarists. The way you record guitar properly in a studio now is the guitarist plugs in and their clean sound is recorded. And then they put a virtual amp on afterwards so that they can record that guitar sound clean and then re-mic, but they're not really remicing, they're just tuning the guitar sound afterwards. It's not that sound that's been recorded, it's the clean sound. And the clean sound can be manipulated. It's very easy, even if you're going to have exactly what someone's played, it's very easy to just go in and run a compressor on that. And I'm talking about an intelligent compressor, not a live compressor. Go into Melodyne and manually compress all the notes so they're right up in your face, right? And then when you hear that, you go, well, nobody can play with that sort of flat dynamic, right? And because people are taking clean sounds and using virtual amps, it's very easy to create MIDI out of that, to add MIDI sounds into that. When you listen to a band like Polyphia, those guitarists are playing their guitar in, and that guitar has been split into millions and millions of different channels, and they've got one part that's been pitched up, and then they've got one part that's been pitched up and phased into the thing, and they're using sort of digital artifacts and synthesis within that to create the sound. Now, this is very exciting stuff, right? How you do it live is another thing. But these are the things that are going on in the real music world, where you have creative musicians and bands. And throughout my life, I have suffered from journalists, fan sites, fanzines, websites, reviewers, and even people within the music business that actually don't know what it is to make creative music, release creative music and get it out there. Now, I'm sure some of the powers that be will be shouting, but I have made an album. Yeah, but you haven't gone and got a record deal. If you've made a self-released album, it operates in a completely different way to when you're working for a record company. The record company are paying for it and they are demanding that things be a certain way. When I made the first album by Frost with Million Town, I went in and spent 4 days recording the drums. The drums were fine, right? The drums were fine. When they set that mix off, the record company who'd bought the thing liked the sound of the virtual drums on there. Right, so then my drum sound, which was beautifully recorded but wasn't that sound, they started to quantize and re-trigger it, and in some place just go back to the original sound. It's my name on the album, right? It's my name on the album. And I won awards, I got voted into lists because of my drumming on that album. But some of that drumming is not me, and the bits that are me is re-triggered, right? If someone wants to point the finger at me and say, oh, well, you're a fake, you're trying to con people, they do not understand how this works. They do not understand. And I was very careful on the follow-up album, Experiments in Mass Appeal, to demand that my drums was really on. I did. And on that album, there is real drums. Now, I haven't said this publicly, and I have just said it publicly. If somebody wants to point the finger at me and accuse me of not being able to play because of that, you're welcome to come on board, and send me a link, and I will do an interview with you. Same with these guys that are calling out these guitarists online. I don't think they understand how much they're damaging the career of absolutely incredible musicians. And if they step back and go, if this person cannot play and they faked it, fair enough, I agree. If this person is entering competitions and winning them, fair enough, I agree. Right? If this person is in the same business as you and selling courses and stuff like that, right? Fair enough, I agree. Okay, that's fair enough. If someone is is playing a song that they've made. If they're out there trying to get their creative music out there, or they're working with management or record companies or anything like that, you have to step back because you don't understand how that works. I'm sure they're going to get really angry because they seem so self-appointed and self-righteous in their knowledge, and it really seems like they don't like that to be questioned. They don't like the fact that their position as being the expert, they do not like that being questioned, right? And so as I go back to my original point about me playing a guitar solo, right, and me changing notes, it doesn't matter because I'm just making music. This is really going to happen when a musician is pushing the envelope. If someone's pushing the envelope technically, then these people will go, they're pushing the envelope. That's a threat. That's a threat to the status quo. It always has been. You know, the same thing was levelled at Alan Holdsworth when he first emerged. The same thing was levelled at Sean Lane. And this stuff, this type of criticism, and that, there's no emotion there, and that's all been done in the studio, and I don't believe he's really doing, and all that type of stuff, could well have destroyed Sean Lane. It destroys these creative people who are pushing the envelope, not just someone sit there copying and just working out other solos and doing that thing. Like, that is different to being a creative musician who is pushing the envelope. And this is affecting musicians, right? I've had this myself all my life within the music industry, right? I've never had it as bad as some of these guitarists that are getting picked on at the moment. But I think these people need to sit back and say, is this person a really fantastic guitarist? And is it justified me attacking them in this way over something which is obviously a marketing tool for them, right? And they'll go, well, they shouldn't market with stuff that's fake. Get a grip and have a look at the music industry. Get a grip. Go and look at Polyphia's new video that's done like 8 million views. Go and look at Animals as Leaders. Go and look at Periphery. Go and look at all those bands, Pain of Salvation, Tesseract. Go and look at them all. And tell me whether you really think anyone's really playing, if those are real performances on those records. And when their videos are on and they're stuck on the top of a mountain or in a great big white room and they're doing all this stuff, whether they're really playing that. And you'd be an idiot, right, to think they're really playing that. That is the music industry. That is the industry in which we all work. And it's great to sit in your lovely comfy chair where you do all your guitar solos sat down to a little camera in the room, and you can do it 8 million times and pick the best take and then feel like you can do it well, right? To bands that actually go out live and play it in front of an audience night after night and then have to go into a room somewhere and shoot promotional material to be able to sell that, to get the audience in. And if they didn't do that, they can't compete against every other band that's doing it. Come on, get a grip, right? Sometimes you have to say, I just don't know. I've never had a record deal. I've never been in a band. I've never sold any records. I've never had a fan base like that turns up to watch me play live. So I might not know how that works, right? And this is my real criticism of progressive metal, right? I think it needs to stop. We do need to go back to people playing real music, but those who sit in judgment on it at the other end also need to understand the market forces that are on these bands to outdo everybody else, and how easy it is for musicians who aren't that knowledgeable and not that wary of how the industry works to get pulled into that type of thing, right? And this stuff damages musicians, right? And I've said this all along, a lot of the progressive metal bands that I criticise, I do believe are phenomenal musicians, but they need to do something their end production-wise so we can actually hear it, and that means letting some of the mistakes through and letting some of the roughness through. Musicians that can sit in a room, these Instagram guys who can do it and can sit in there and play perfectly, who cares about that in the end? Is that what good music is being able to sit in a chair and play something correctly? I promise you, it is not. I'm a professional musician that's played in bands with deals and I've been out on tour in front of big audiences. Right? Everybody's making mistakes up there, but what a professional musician does is they're able to cover it. Right? That's the real skill, is being able to deliver something and focus on what you are selling to the audience. Right? Progressive metal should be one of the most exciting music forms on the planet. Right, so that's my message to progressive metal, right? Progressive metal bands, start rehearsing and go into the studio and record it live, all in the same room. and live with the results, right? And if it's not good enough to cut the mustard, then go back and practice till you get it right, okay? If you have to do like 20 takes in the studio, the old Rick Rubin method, fine, do that. I've got a problem with that. We all know everybody does that. And there will be a difference between your studio performance, even though it's live, and your live performance, right? Because recordings always change. The nature, they're all fake. And those people who are criticising musicians take a step back and say, I might know all about guitar technique and I might know about how people play and all that type of stuff, but I might not understand the forces that are on these musicians, right, to do this stuff. And to destroy them in this way is morally wrong, okay? That has been my video on progressive metal. 2 halves, wasn't it? It was in 2 halves. It was like, I sat down this morning to do this, and I thought, I'm not going to do a rant today, you know. And I know you all love the rants, but I thought, I'm not going to do a rant today. And I've got a new camera, and I came in to film this morning, and I forgot to charge the battery. So I'm back on my old camera, and I think the old camera brings the rants out, because this camera might be lower quality, right, but it's easier to use. I can stop and start it, I can position it, I know it's just going to go on forever and ever, the batteries will never run out, so I can plug it in. This new posh camera I can't plug in, so I keep charging batteries up, and the memory card, it's like it just runs out, you know. It's like every 4 gigabytes it creates a new file. I end up with like 30 files. This one just sits there, low quality, but from a utilitarian point of view, more useful. And I'm far more braver with this camera to just go off on a tangent. The files aren't that big. I won't have problems with my computer trying to edit them. And what's the lesson to be learnt from that? Is sometimes perfection, sometimes quality, sometimes all these things that everyone's obsessed with nowadays, looking good, you know, making sure your camera's brilliant, that the audio's brilliant. You cannot do a YouTube video unless it's like that, and you cannot do a guitar solo unless every note's perfect. Maybe from a pragmatic utilitarian point of view, that is not the best, you know, way of going. And if you don't know what utilitarian means, go and look it up. Oh, God. What's he mean, utilitarian? Yeah, the utility, the usefulness, the thing that gets results. You know, if you're a musician, you need to get results. And if you're a listener, you want a band that can produce results that you like. That's as simple as it in a nutshell. And all this stuff that surrounds it and gets in the way of people making good music, I absolutely abhor. Right, got to the end of the video. If you liked this big video, which was in 2 halves, I was about to say, was it? First half is a nice, calm, progressive rock friendly explanation of how progressive metal developed, and then I've just had a message come from Roy Marchbank on this very subject, because a lot of what I'm saying, there's people out there that I am stirring up a nest at the moment. So all of those who don't know anything about this, and he keeps coming back to this subject, I cannot help it, you know, I cannot help it. Just back, if you are involved in this, you don't know what's going on, just sit back and enjoy the fact that I am poking the nest. And I can't wait for someone to get so irate by what I've said in their own little world of self-righteousness, and I would love to have a conversation with that. You know, I did the same thing with jazz, and Jason Marsalis came on. What a man. From the very family that I was criticising. And he came on and we had a proper discussion, and I softened my view. Jason, I think, you know, was very empathetic to my point of view. And I came at that slightly changing my opinion about Wynton Marsalis's involvement in the sort of conservatism of jazz. He made some very good points, right? I didn't change my opinion, I just softened it. And that's a lot of the time what we need to do. And if you could come on a YouTubers, if you can come on here and just tell the truth, you don't have to have a position, right? You can change your mind, right? And you can tell the truth. You don't have to sit there, you know, pontificating that your point of view is so correct, but all the guitarists around you are just sort of kowtowing, because that is really what's going on. There's a whole bunch of guitar players out there who are beholden to these experts. I'm not. I've got a record deal. I come from the progressive rock world. All I have to worry about is my fan base, telling me what's prog and what's not prog. That's what I have to worry about. No one's sat there looking at my drumming and demanding my files to see if I really play the drumming on my albums. They just don't do that to me, because they're more interested in the music. You can tell I'm really fed up with this one, and I will have to move away from it. I didn't mean to talk about it. I just want to talk about progressive metal. But it's going to come up, isn't it? And anyone who's watching this video as we get to the hour mark, I've done a rant. This week, I have done everything that people love on my channel. I'm doing it now. I'm just doing stuff to try and get the views. My channel's sagged a little bit in the last few weeks. And I tell you why, because I've been doing some very interesting, esoteric, intelligent videos, with various people, the Matt Tavares interviews I did last week, I think are some of the best interviews I've ever done, talking about subjects that are so important to music, but the views haven't been very good. So Monday, I did a silly video, right? Yes, on Wednesday, I did a top 10, right? Not the best top 10, because I've done every bloody top 10 you can possibly do, but I did a top 10, and hopefully that will draw them in. Right, and today I've talked about prog, and particularly prog metal. And I didn't mean to, I did a rant as well. I've done a big rant. So, everyone's happy, except for the guitar experts. They're sat there fuming at the moment. How dare he question my knowledge and my position in this tiny little world of the guitar virtuoso end of the market. I have carved out a little empire here where people sit, my acolytes sit and listen to me, and they listen to my judgments, and I cannot have someone coming on me and question me just because I haven't had a record deal. It doesn't matter, you can still talk about music. What are you doing? You're just playing the card of I've been in a proper band, I played with Robert Plant. That means nothing. It's not about what you are, who you are. It's about what you've got to say. And these people are faking it. And I spotted it. There's an arpeggio on one of them. And if you look at the video, the fingering is absolutely not right. And I think that that's worthy of me shouting my mouth and swearing and getting all irate and angry. Yeah, all right then. Give us an email. You can find it on the site. Give us an email. Let's get a Zoom up. Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat and see what we do. I'm not going to come at you all angry. I'm not like that. Anyone will talk to me, I'll talk to you absolutely normal. I will say my point. And I know that if you're talking to me, if you want to shout at me, you can. That's all great. But I'm sure you won't. You'll have a civilised conversation. And I'm sure you'll agree with everything I've said. But the net result is it's damaging people's careers, right? And I'm a musician that works in the music business. So when people are doing that, I don't like it, right? I don't like it, okay? And that... One of the things of this channel, when I criticise the people who criticise progressive rock and say it's just pretentious nonsense, I have called those out. The academy jazz world, which says you can't be a jazz musician unless you can play the changes, blah, 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 and all that stuff. I have called that out. And now I'm calling out this virtuosity thing. And I'm trying to... I love virtuosity. I love players who can play and can do all that mad stuff. I'm not against it. I'm not one of those people who doesn't think it hasn't got an emotion. I think it has. Right, but there's gatekeepers in that as well, and I'm calling them out now. That's what I am. I'm the gatekeeper caller outer. Oh God, I shouldn't have so much coffee in the morning. I get up in the morning, have a couple of cups of coffee, right? Neaten my hair up, try and get all the sticky bits out. Make sure my eyebrows are under control. Make sure these bits. I sometimes have these fluffy bits here. I don't like that when I watch the video. And I come in here, I have a cups of coffee, and I start talking, and my mouth's going like this, and a million miles an hour. You always have some pun. But if you use something to like it, don't you? The faster I talk, the more and I just can't stop. Anyway, if you like the video, like it. If you want to subscribe to me, subscribe. If you want to become a patron and support me, go and feed the savage. The links down below. And I'll see you on the next video. And I didn't speed that. That honestly, that was for real. I can do it in real life. I'm telling you, you can slow it down and have a look, but I just did that for real.